Welcome, YouTube. I need to tell you guys about an important little happenstance that happened recently ago. A black woman cosplayer named Squidkid1111. You know these black women who get into cosplay. It's like a whole community of nerd black girls. And you guys know my opinions about black girls, especially nerd black girls. These are some of the most hardcore divester type of black girls there are. And I'm not really checking for black girls in the first place, but I do know that these particular types of black girls are, they would have probably said some pretty gnarly shit to me if I had ever crossed paths with them. Let's just say they're very not, they're very anti-black in most cases, you know, and this is probably the case for this Squid Kid 1111 girl too, who offed herself. But I'm still going to talk about it nonetheless, and still going to, because you know what, I recognize the underlying sentiment of this, and I sympathize with it, despite the fact that she herself probably would not have given me any type of grace. I'm still going to talk about it, because the real truth about this is that I don't really hate black women like that. I just have a lot of trauma and experiences from how I've been treated from the majority of black women. So let's get into this topic without further ado. So yeah, she was a black girl cosplayer. I looked at some of her cosplays. They look pretty good. They look pretty like I wish I'd had a chance with a black girl like that growing up. It would have changed my whole fucking life for the better. I would have loved a girl like that. But yeah, she was cosplaying, and she had a bunch of racists. Like, guys, these nerd communities, these anime communities, they're full of goddamn racists, by the way, in case you didn't know. I grew up into this stuff. The reason why I'm not into this stuff today is because I've had my 30 years of experience to know that this is what this community really is at the core. So yeah, you'll be into all that type of shit, and you can be in those communities, and you can make friends in those communities, but you better not ever make it known that you're black. Oh yeah, because once you do that, unless you're like an attractive black guy, because they typically are able to stick around in those communities. But if you're just a regular black dude or a black woman, because most of these communities like white and Asian women, right? Or at the very least Hispanic. Once you let it be known that you're this, these communities, they may not come outright at you and say some racist, bigoted shit, but they are going to start to be aloof with you. They are going to start to step away from you. Like, they'll walk away mid-sentence. They'll stop checking the DMs for you. They're not going to interact with you. Every interaction is going to be cold. They're not really going to respond to you. They're not really going to, bring you into the community the same way once they find out that you're black. So you're going to struggle like this. And God forbid you do something where, like, people can comment on it. Like, this girl, like I said, was a cosplayer. Obviously, cosplay is meant to be seen and commented on, and so once they start doing that in these communities, once people start actually acknowledging you in these communities, 9 times out of 10, or at least 6 to 8 times out of 10, it's going to be, the truth is going to come out at that stage. They're going to start calling you a monkey. They're going to start calling you charcoal, or a dang on a ninja. Like, the daggers are going to come out. And this is like, really especially heartbreaking too, because this is the nerd community. The nerd community was founded on inclusion. It was founded by the virtue of bringing in all the people that were excluded from mainstream society and forming this little community here. And it's like the very core of nerd culture was supposed to be founded on this. Pretty much, like, they're very inclusive to LGBTs and stuff like that too, so that makes it especially perplexing that they're very anti-black in these communities like this. It runs contrary to what you would think, but this is what it is. They're even, like, hell, I would even take my chances more in like a Trump rally or or conservative meeting of any kind, like a conservative group, I would take my chances in a right wing group more so than I would take my chances in a nerd group. That's how bad it is, guys. And like I said, when I was growing up trying to be in these nerd communities, yeah, like I said, they'll mingle with you. They'll shoot the shit with you up until they find out that you're black. And then you would start to notice, oh, all your people that you was cool with and talking with is starting to one by one dwindle away. And they got cold feet when you come around. They ain't saying much when they come around. You ask them something, they got one word answers, totally disinterested. It's like they're rejecting you like a girl. Like when a girl is around like a normal guy that they don't want to talk with, they'll become like that towards you, which is obvious hostility. Obvious hostility. But this Squidkid11 girl, she got plenty of racist, bigoted comments coming at her, and then she was only 19 years old too, by the way. Yeah, she decided to just delete herself, and it's pretty obvious why she did it. Pretty obvious. People know why she did it. But here's the more brutal part about this too. So I only barely heard of this first because Comey talked about it on his video, but he didn't drop the name, so I couldn't find out who exactly he was talking about. I tried to find it, but couldn't find it. Fast forward to today, I finally see what her name was, and I'm able to search her up that way. And when I search her up, you would think that like these nerd communities and like people with big followings would have commented on the situation and said, hey, this is fucked up, this is wrong, this is you would have thought that the nerd community is full of people with huge followings that you would expect this kind of thing from. But lo and behold, nobody's talking about it. Yeah, nobody's talking about it. Like, you got small creators talking about it, you got people here and there talking about it, but I haven't seen very many videos talking about this. And the videos I do see talking about it has like 300 views, 600 views, most of them less than 2,000 views, definitely. Like, hell, the video that I'm making about it right now could probably get more views than the majority of like the videos that I did see on it. And I'm like, okay, wow, not only did the nerd community bully this girl into self-deletion, but they also are not talking about it. And this is like a known thing that happened. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody gives a fuck to talk about it. Whoa, what? Guys, I used to consider myself a nerd and into anime. I'm not those things anymore. I'm really not. I haven't been into those things for a long time, really. Like, yeah, I do have a passing interest in these things, but I don't allow myself to get immersed into it fully the way I would have wanted to, because I know the truth that these communities are full of little punk racist people. And I really do mean these people are some of the most pathetic of the racists, because at least with the right-wingers and the alt-righters, at least with those guys, there's some level of owning what they are. In the nerd community, though, these are predominantly leftist, and they're very cowardly about it. They're never gonna come outright and say what they really feel about you. No, they're never gonna do it. They're just gonna ignore it, pretty much. And you'll get people come in here and there. Maybe some right-winger that happens to be into it will say it, or maybe some of the more unhinged people in the nerd community will come out and say some bigoted shit towards you. But that's going to be relatively rare. But the truth is going to be, they don't like you because you're black. But you'll never, for the life of you, and these are some people predominantly who are shy, introverted, not many friends in real life, excluded themselves in normal, polite society, have issues themselves. It's a lot of these types of people in these communities too, and they're still sitting here with more bigotry in them than the freaking KKK. So it's especially bad, and I've always sensed that kind of energy from these communities. For a long time, I kind of didn't understand why I was losing interest in these hobbies. I kind of didn't understand why I was, but now I totally can articulate why it was. It's because I sensed that bigotry. If they weren't so bigoted in that way, I would have friends predominantly in those spaces, predominantly in that community. I would have had a community. I probably would have found a girl from that community too who was also into these things. If they weren't bigoted, all these things would have happened, but that's not what happened. No, I was isolated and alone and never really allowed to linger in these communities because they find some excuse to ban you too. They find some excuse to ban you or get you to fuck up out of there or just keep you permanently isolated like that till you get the message. You know, that's a lot of how these racist tactics work. But they literally bullied Squidkid1111 into this. And there's tons of like black woman nerd creators that are kind of big. Like one of them is Glitch City. She makes the Pokemon remix videos. I kind of wonder, you know, what would her experience have been like, even though she's like quite popular and big and a lot of people know about her. I always kind of wonder. But anyways, yeah, guys, the nerd community is just as, if not more, bigoted than like just the straight up alt-righters. It really comes back to the simple fact that, like I was saying, that if you're black, you've really got no friends, you've really got no allies, and you have to really pick and choose who you mingle with very, very carefully, you know? And if you're a black man especially, it's like insultdom is pretty much inevitable unless you're Tyrone. You know, this is why black men, the lion's share of the BP community and the incelosphere, you know, is ethnic men in general are, but black men the most, so I've always noticed. So, anyways, rest in peace to Squidkid1111. She was a very young girl. You know, I'm pretty sure. You know, Comey said that he didn't care about her death like that. You know, I kind of feel somewhat the same way. Although I'll say, even though I got my opinions about black women, and particularly the Vester black women, even though I got my opinions, you know, I know that they wouldn't like me, and they probably wouldn't give a shit if I died or something like this. Even though I'll still say I don't like the fact that they go through stuff like this regardless. I really don't. And it's a tragedy. And I'll say my rest in peace to her. And it's like that. And sometimes I kind of fantasize about the idea that maybe in an alternate universe where things aren't as fucked up like they are in this universe, that perhaps I would have gotten with a black girl like this, and it would have been a very, very great thing for me to get with a black girl like that and not have all this self-hatred that complicates things like that from happening, you know? It's a nice thing to speculate about, but it's ultimately a speculation and not the reality that we live in. Because the reality that we live in is that a lot of these black girls that go into those spaces, like I said, they hate themselves. It's not in all cases, but it's in the vast majority of cases, they definitely hate themselves. And so they also hate you because you're black. And they're also looking to get a white man or at least a non-black dude, ultimately. And they're going to be extremely prejudiced and bigoted about that selection process too, to ensure that they're going to deprive you of any hope of getting with them if you're just a black dude at all. Like, you know, like, this is how it is in reality, and it's very, very sad, but this still doesn't mean I necessarily like the bad shit that happens to them. At the same time, though, I'm not gonna shed a tear over it, for damn sure not. So I just felt like this is an interesting story to bring up and to kind of make sure you know what her name was, and if you want to look into it yourself, you can, now that you know the name. And that being said, I guess I'll go ahead and end it here. This has been Emperor Dion the Lion, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.